You're listening to the So Good It Doesn't Make Sense podcast, a podcast for women navigating divorce who want more. More clarity, more money, more peace, more power. I'm Megan Norris, divorce expert, coach, and the friend who's going to tell you the truth. Not just about what's happening right now, but about what's possible for you next. This podcast is about making decisions you trust, building a life you actually want, and becoming the version of you that no one saw coming. Whether you're in it, ending it, or already out, you're in the right place. You're about to become the CEO of your life and create one so good it doesn't make sense. Let's get started. Oh, hi. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. Happy Monday. It is Monday as I'm recording this, but I'm recording it in the afternoon. It's almost 5 o'clock. And I usually record during school hours, but school is pretty much over for us. And so I have the afternoon light coming in the windows behind me for a change, and it's really lovely. I want to tell you today the story about my separation, a story from when I first separated from my ex in the summer of 2021, and a therapy session I had that changed everything and was really the birthplace of my philosophy around divorce and is the foundation for now everything I teach. So in the summer of 2021, the end of July, I separated from my ex. I initiated it. And shortly thereafter, I had a session with a therapist that I had been seeing since fall of 2018. So we'd been working together on and off for several years. And I got on the Zoom. It was via Zoom at that point because we'd been through COVID and had gone everything had gone virtual. And I was grateful because she was not in my hometown. She lived 2.5 hours away in Lubbock. And so I was able to Zoom with her, and I got on the call and I had the conversation with him, and she was shocked. I'm not sure why, but she was. And fair enough, I had been in this very tortured place for years, trying to decide what to do. And I'd had this breakthrough moment, which I talk about a lot inside of my paid content and in my private subscriber only podcast. And I won't get into that here, but I'd had this breakthrough moment, and I'd had the conversation with him, and I was sharing that experience with her, and she was taking it all in and said, okay, all right. So what we need to do now is create a survival plan for you, a self-care plan. How are you going to take care of yourself over what's probably going to be at least a year of hell? Like, this is going to be hard. And how are you going to take care of yourself so that you can get by and get through this? And we talked about that for the entire session, as I recall. May not be an accurate memory. I don't remember a lot from that time, but it was the majority of that call was talking about what the next year was going to look like, how hard it was going to be, and how I needed to, take care of myself so I could get through it. And for context, she had gone through her own divorce many years before we started working together and was navigating that in whatever her experience was of that. I can take an educated guess. She didn't talk to me about that, but so she had context. She had personal experience with divorce, and you could probably guess too what that was like for her, given the premise that we started with in this session. And like a good type A overachiever student, I was taking notes during this session and really considering what she was telling me, because I wanted to do it right and I wanted to be prepared and I wanted to get the best possible outcome. And it was important to me that I take her professional advice as not just a therapist, but someone who has been through it. And I got off that call an hour later, and I was sitting in my office in my house, in my old house. And for whatever reason, I feel like Zoom was open. I feel like I could see myself on the screen. She did not use Zoom. She used a telehealth uh, platform for the call. And I don't know why I feel like I remember being able to see my own face, but maybe I couldn't, but I recall looking at myself in the camera after that call and feeling heavy and ominous and disempowered and scared. And there was this lightning bolt of electricity that shot through me in that moment. And this very loud, strong, knowing / voice that came into my head that said, no, no. This will not be my story. I reject, full body reject all of this. I will not survive. This will not be hell. This will not be this horrible, tragic setback in any of our lives. I will not tolerate that. And I ripped up the notes I had taken and I put them in the trash. And I decided in that moment that no matter what, I was done outsourcing my thoughts, my opinions, my emotions to people outside of me. I was not going to navigate divorce feeling terrible ahead of time. Keep in mind, I already had a life coaching certification. I got certified as a life coach in 2018. And I'd been familiar with life coaching since 2018. So I understood this basic premise that our beliefs create our reality, that my thoughts were really important, and that they create my experience of my circumstances, my world. And I decided in that moment that no matter what happened, I was going to choose to believe that it was all helping me and working for me. And no matter how hard of a day, no matter how awful I felt, it simply meant I was getting more of what I want. And I can call them, I only can call them blinders. I put blinders on. I turned off every podcast. I stopped reading every book. I hired a spiritual life coach who was not associated with the divorce space at all, because I couldn't find somebody who had that outlook or value system around divorce specifically. So I worked with somebody who had it just generally around her coaching practice and mentorship practice. And I remember thinking, a self-care plan sounds so pretty. A self-care plan sounds right, because we're going to take care of you. But it was heavy and it felt precarious, as if I could mess it up or do it wrong. And I thought, if this is already going to be hard, if this is already going to require a lot of emotional pain and stretching of my capacity, why not make it mean that everything is working out for me? And I think it's easy, especially in today's culture and social media therapy that we all consume when we're scrolling, to have this idea that our nervous system, that our stress, that our anxiety is bad or wrong or hurting us or holding us back. But my experience of that intense adrenaline, stress, fight or flight state is that it gave me a straight line to my intuition. And I could feel that. And I thought, this is not this is not going to go down the way they tell me it's got to go down. No freaking way. I'm not feeding into that narrative. Everybody can have whatever meltdown they're going to have, but I am going to be okay. And I'm going to make damn sure that I bring these kids with me while I do that. And it was so crystal clear. I think in part because of the stress, the heightened stress and the adrenaline. And I let it be. I let myself hear that intuitive knowing in that moment instead of doubting it and making it muddled or confused because I didn't trust what I was hearing when I was stressed. And I just stopped listening to anything that felt depressing. I think I said this on another podcast earlier in the episodes, but I stopped Googling shit that made me feel terrible. I stopped listening to family members, and I went inward, and I thought, I'm doing this with me and me. That's all I need. I can consider an expert's opinion, but it is not going to be a life raft. It's going to be an opinion that I can consider as the expert in my life. And I know, and I trust myself to know exactly how to handle this and manage myself and support me and my family to the extent that I can. And I just kept making decisions from the present moment, collecting data, feeling my feelings, and going again. And I made it all me, no matter how awful the day was. And I had some really awful ones. But no matter how awful it was, and in fact, the more intense it got, I decided it meant the better it was going to get. And I just kept repeating that to myself on a loop. And it became this, it was almost like it got coded into my DNA. The worse something feels, the better it's getting. The more expansion I'm experiencing, the more that's coming in for me. And I don't know it. And I thought, I don't know if this will work, but it can't be worse. I can't end up worse off than I would if I went into it expecting devastation, hell, and survival, which is basically the vibe of that therapy session. She didn't mean to do that. She was trying to comfort me by telling me what to expect. But I knew that if I was going to believe that my thoughts create my reality, and I knew I wanted to be a life coach. I knew I didn't want to go back to practicing law. And I thought, what better little lab, petri dish, is there than to go all in on this and try it. It's easy to believe that your thoughts create your reality when you think you're trying to lose weight. But when you see your children suffering and shit gets real, do you still believe that? Or do you think that this is an exception to that universal law? And what if it's not? I thought, this is at least giving us the best shot possible. And let's see what happens. And I'll be damned if it didn't start working. And I thought, oh my God, it's true. It's true. What they say is true. All the life coaches, all the quantum physicists, all the philosophers and the religious leaders, it's true. Our thoughts create our experience of our reality. And no matter what the circumstances are, no matter how hard it feels in any given moment, rinse and repeat over and over again, it's happening for me. This is happening for me. And I got very good at looking for an optimal angle. Every time something would feel devastating, I thought, okay, this feels devastating, so it must really be helping me. And it's felt supportive of me to look for those optimal angles, and it helped me relax and surrender to the things I could not control anyway. And over and over and over again, miraculous things started happening. And people would say to me, I've never seen this before. I've never heard of this before. This can't be accurate. This doesn't make sense. Over and over and over again. And I was so in my own world and disconnected from what, quote, normal or average or typical would be in this process that I was continually surprised by people's surprise. I thought, yeah. And it's just going to keep getting better. Watch me. And I was willing for it to take as long as it took. I was not in a hurry. I was simply collecting the data my world, my reality was offering me, allowing my emotions, making it mean I was getting exactly what I wanted. And for however long that was going to take, I was in. I was all in. Because what is the freaking alternative? That was hell. That's the setback. That's becoming a statistic. That's being a realist. I don't want to be real. I wanted to be delusional. And that delusion was the best gift I ever gave myself. It was just total surrender to the unknown being possibly a positive outcome. Eventually, I knew it would be. I didn't know day to day if it was going to feel that way, and I didn't care. I was just going to go all in. And it felt like, when you hear of some miraculous Herculean strength coming through, like somebody lifts a car off somebody who's trapped, and it shouldn't be humanly possible that we can lift a car, but in that moment of extreme adrenaline and stress, the human body is capable of extraordinary things. That's what that time period in my life felt like. It shouldn't make sense that I could do that, but I did it. And when I started getting the miraculous results over and over and over and over and over again, I just kept going. And I am to this day operating in my life that way. It doesn't mean that I feel good all the time, and it doesn't mean that I get what I want all the time. It simply means that I have a framework, a way of processing, understanding, and allowing my life to unfold in a way that feels supportive of where I'm going, no matter what. And over time, what happens is, and it's so fun to experience this as a nervous system reset, it's so fun over time to see how my capacity to hold negative emotion, to have my own back, to be my own best friend has grown. In the beginning, everything felt like, in the beginning of my separation, while we were getting divorced, everything felt so scary and devastating, especially when it revolved around my kids. And now I think even my kids have this resilience baked in because we've come through this fire, this emotional fire, where it felt really hot and intense, but we came through the other side, and we realized, the way I like to think about it is, we realized that we are the fire. And so we don't have to be so afraid of the heat. And over the last 3 years, I have basically unpacked the nuance in that process and broken it down into a digestible framework that I think I talk about either in last week's episode or maybe the coming up week. I can't remember. But I've distilled it down and broken it down into a framework that you can understand and use in different circumstances based on different emotions and how you're feeling and what you want. Because it sounds simple, and it is simple from a bird's eye view, but when you get into the experience of it in your life and in your divorce, and you're trying to co-parent, and you're also trying to figure out your finances and your career and where you're going to live, and just making simple decisions about when to respond to a text or not, or, needing to call your attorney back and feeling dread, and all of these nuances that we find when we go to apply it. I have spent the last 3.5, almost 4 years now unpacking that. And it's created an extraordinary body of work and an extraordinary paradigm and lens through which to do not just divorce, but to create any result, to walk through any adversity. And I'm so grateful to that therapist for being so transparent and honest with me about her experience, because without that contrast, I wouldn't have had that moment, that lightning bolt moment that truly changed everything. And it was just a single moment that just said, no, I'm not doing it this way. I'm not. Everybody can go jump in the lake. You're all absurd. Why is this the narrative? And you don't really appreciate how negative it is until it's happening to you, and you become aware that what everyone is offering you, whether it's on Instagram or a podcast or in a book or just a friend's opinion, everything everyone's offering you is a thought. It's a belief. And you get to choose whether or not to believe it. And I would offer that most of the time, it's not going to be a right fit for you, and that you have to create your own optimal angle, because your circumstances are unique to you, which is what I love about the application of this framework that I've created, because everybody is so different. But we think there's a right way and a wrong way to apply it. We end up trying to fit ourselves into a box because we just want so desperately to have rules and guidelines to help us create this feeling of safety. And you can have that. It's just going to look different than you think it does, because we can't control things outside of you. And we don't want to create rigidity, this black and white set of rules or actions that you're supposed to follow and take that may not fit exactly for you, based on long-term strategy, your long-term vision, who you are, what you want. All of that factors into it. And I love the process of listening to someone's unique set of circumstances, distilling it down to where they're stuck in that particular moment, and giving them the tools through this framework, this perspective that they can practice using over and over and over and over and over again until it becomes baked into your DNA and it's just who you are. And then there is truly nothing that you can't create in your life if you're willing to keep going and make every quote setback mean that something even better is coming in. How fun is that? And what a liberating gift if we're talking about hard things with your kids, or hard moments financially, or hard moments with your co-parent, or maybe you're dating somebody and you're heartbroken again. All of that emotional discomfort becomes really sacred data and fuel that informs your vision and makes what you want even closer. It brings it even closer. And that's how this was born. So I wanted to share that story with you. I don't share a lot of personal or public details, or details publicly, but I feel like that one was important and probably relatable to a lot of you. This goes for attorneys too. I still currently work with one, and sometimes she'll offer me thoughts and I'll just be like, nope, that's not for me. That's not for me. I don't need that. I know exactly what I'm doing here, and I've been right every step of the way, and I will continue to have my own back, even if I get it wrong, quote, wrong. So it's not just with other professionals. I mean, therapists, it can be attorneys, financial professionals, even coaches, even me. Please, I don't have all the answers for you. I hope that if you hear me say something that just feels all kinds of wrong for you, you will leave it, because this is a buffet. You can leave what's not for you. Don't try to fit yourself into a box because you think I have the answers for you. I don't. What I do have is a framework for helping you figure out what your answers are. And they may not fit into conventional divorce wisdom advice and action plans. That's why it's so important that you reconnect with you and figure out how to feel your emotions and use them as fuel, because they're telling you all sorts of amazing things. And if somebody gives you advice or tells you it's going to be some way and it leaves you feeling worse and more disempowered, it's just a sign that that's not the advice for you. And you'll know. Of course you know. Okay. I hope you feel encouraged that a life so good it doesn't make sense is inevitable for you if you will just keep going. It creates insane results. I am looking out at this patio, living in my dream house. I still wake up in this bedroom feeling like I'm in a luxury hotel. I think it's because it's a little smaller. It's cozy. It feels like a warm hug to live here. The extraordinary income I've been able to create, the way that my kids are thriving, it's miraculous, and I'm so grateful. And also it makes total sense based on what I know now. And the same is available to you in the flavor that you want. It won't look just like mine. And that's on purpose. It's going to look like what you want it to look like. And you will get the support from the universe that you need in order to create that. See you next week. Thanks for listening to the So Good It Doesn't Make Sense podcast. If today's episode resonated, please take a minute and leave a review. It helps women find this work and change their lives and divorces too. For more support, be sure you follow me on Instagram at Megan Norris Coaching. That's where I share real-time strategy, perspective, and what it actually looks like day to day. And when you're ready to go deeper, join the Divorce Academy, my monthly membership for women navigating divorce with clarity, power, and community. I'll see you next week. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for legal, financial, or mental health advice. Please consult with licensed professionals as needed.